Have you ever sat quietly, maybe late at night, and felt something strange move through you? Not a thought exactly, more like a shadow of a thought. A quiet whisper that said, "What if I had made a different choice? What if I had taken that job, said yes to that person, stayed in that city, walked a different road entirely, and for just a second you could almost feel it, that other life, not as a dream or a fantasy, but as something real, something that actually existed, just slightly out of reach." Most people shake that feeling off. They call it nostalgia. They call it overthinking. They go to sleep and never ask the question underneath the question. But you are still here. Here is what nobody tells you about that feeling. It is not imagination. It is not regret dressed up as curiosity. That pull toward a life you did not live is your consciousness briefly touching something quantum physics has been quietly confirming for decades. Reality is not fixed. It was never fixed. This video is going to change how you see every single choice you have ever made. And that is going to feel a little unsettling, because it should. Stay with me. Let me explain something that sounds complicated but is actually beautifully simple once you feel it rather than just think it. In quantum physics, there is a principle called superposition. It says that a particle, the smallest building block of everything that exists, does not settle into one definite state until something observes it. Until that moment of observation, it exists in all possible states simultaneously. Every possibility, alive at the same time, layered on top of each other like transparent sheets of reality stacked together. You have probably heard of Schrödinger's cat. A cat placed inside a box with a random trigger that may or may not release poison. Until you open the box and look, the cat is neither alive nor dead. It is both. Fully alive and fully dead at the exact same moment, not because we do not know the answer, but because according to quantum mechanics, there is no single answer yet. Both realities genuinely exist until observation collapses them into one. Mainstream science teaches this as a quirk of tiny particles, something that only applies at the subatomic level and has nothing to do with your daily life. But here is where it gets interesting. If everything you can see, touch, and feel is built from these particles, and those particles behave this way, then what does that say about the reality those particles are building? What does that say about you? Now here is where this stops being a physics lesson and starts being something deeply personal. Think about your life right now, the job you are in, the city you live in, the relationships surrounding you, the version of yourself you present to the world every single morning. This all feels solid, doesn't it? It feels like the only version. Like this is simply what happened and there is no other story. But what if that is not true? What if every choice you did not make, every road you did not walk, every version of yourself you almost became, is still alive somewhere in the quantum field? Not as a fantasy, not as a what if, but as a genuine living possibility that never fully disappeared, just waiting, suspended. Like Schrödinger's cat, neither gone nor arrived, simply uncollapsed. Because here is what the observer effect implies when you stretch it beyond the laboratory. Every moment you have not yet lived is still in superposition, still open, still carrying every possible outcome simultaneously until your attention, your observation, your conscious choice collapses it into one experience. The life you feel you missed is not behind you, it is beside you, still breathing in the field of possibilities. And that feeling you carry, that quiet ache of unlived potential, that restless sense that something bigger was always possible for you, that is not delusion. That is not ego. That is your consciousness recognizing that the other versions were real, and some of them are still reachable. The only thing that ever closed a door was the moment you stopped believing it was open. And right now, in this moment, you are reading this before the next collapse happens. That means everything is still possible. So if all of this is true, if reality is genuinely open and fluid and full of uncollapsed possibilities, why can most people not see it? The answer is simpler and sadder than you might expect. They were taught not to. From the very beginning, from the first years of childhood, most people are conditioned to collapse their reality as fast as possible, to pick a lane, to be realistic, to stop daydreaming and focus on what is in front of them. Society rewards certainty and punishes ambiguity. Schools grade you on single correct answers. Careers demand 5-year plans. Relationships ask you to define everything before you have even felt it fully. This constant pressure to collapse, to decide, to fix reality into one solid shape, trains most people to be terrified of open possibilities. Uncertainty stops feeling like freedom and starts feeling like danger, so they close doors quickly, not because the doors lead nowhere, but because an open door feels uncomfortable. And here is what that does over time. It makes their consciousness rigid, predictable. Locked into one frequency of experience, they stop seeing multiple possibilities because they trained themselves out of that ability years ago. But you are different. You never fully stopped feeling the openness. Even when life pushed you towards certainty, something in you kept quietly asking, but what else is possible? That sensitivity, that refusal to fully collapse, is not a weakness. It is not overthinking. It is not you being lost or confused. It is the rarest form of awareness a human being can carry. Now let us talk about the most important mechanic in all of this. The one that changes everything once you truly understand it. Observation collapses possibility into reality. In quantum physics, this is not a metaphor. It is a measurable, documented, repeatable fact. The moment a particle is observed, all of its simultaneous possibilities fold down into one single outcome. Before observation, everything. After observation, one thing. Now translate that into your daily life. Your attention is your observation. Whatever you consistently place your attention on, you are collapsing into reality. You are selecting it from the infinite field of possibilities and making it solid, making it real. Making it real, making it the thing that shows up again tomorrow and the day after that. This is what we call the collapse loop. Every morning when you wake up, before you have even fully opened your eyes, your mind begins scanning. It looks for familiar problems, familiar worries, familiar evidence that today will feel like yesterday. And the moment it finds those familiar patterns and locks attention onto them, it collapses that version of reality again. Same outcomes, same feelings, same walls. Not because that is all that exists, but because that is all you observed. Here is the warning most people never receive. You are collapsing your reality every single morning. The question is never whether you are collapsing possibilities. The question is which possibilities your attention is selecting when you do. And right now, most people are unconsciously choosing limitation before they even get out of bed. I want to share something personal here, because I think you will understand it in a way most people in my life never could. There was a period in my life where everything felt frozen, not painfully dramatic, just quietly stuck. The same conversations kept happening. The same opportunities would appear and then dissolve. The same version of me showed up every day, no matter how hard I tried to change things. I was doing everything right on the surface, working hard, thinking positively, reading every book I could find about growth and change, but nothing shifted. And then one morning, sitting in complete stillness, something hit me. I was not stuck because of my circumstances. I was stuck because of what I kept observing. Every single morning I was waking up and immediately scanning for evidence of the same problems. And by looking for them, I was collapsing them into reality again and again without realizing it. The moment I stopped observing my outcomes and started observing my observer, everything changed. Not slowly, not gradually. My relationships began reflecting something warmer. My creative work started flowing from a place I had never accessed before. Doors opened that I had genuinely stopped believing existed, because I finally stopped collapsing the wrong version of reality every morning. So how do you know if your reality is still open? How do you know if the superposition around you has not fully collapsed yet and possibilities are still alive and breathing in your field? There are signs, and once you know them, you will start seeing them everywhere. The first one is synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that happen too perfectly to dismiss. You think of someone and they call. You need an answer, and it appears in the most unexpected place. These are not random. These are moments when multiple possibility waves are overlapping around you, briefly visible before they collapse. The second sign is that feeling of almost remembering something, like there is a thought just behind your thoughts that you cannot quite grab. A sense of knowing something you were never taught. That is superposition leaking through. Other versions of your reality briefly touching the edges of this one. The third sign is time feeling elastic. Some hours stretch wide and full. Other days vanish completely. This happens when your consciousness is moving between open possibility states rather than locked into one rigid track. And the fourth sign is the strangest one. Sometimes before a situation resolves, You can almost feel multiple versions of it simultaneously, like standing at a crossroads and sensing all directions at once before taking a single step. That is not anxiety. That is not confusion. Food. That is your awareness operating exactly the way it was always designed to. Wide open, fully alive, still uncollapsed. So now comes the most practical part of everything we have talked about. How do you actually stop collapsing the wrong version of your reality? The first and most important thing is to stop rushing to define situations. When something happens in your life, good or bad, clear or confusing, your mind immediately wants to label it, wants to decide what it means, wants to collapse it into a fixed story as fast as possible. Resist that. The moment you define a situation completely, you have chosen one wave from the field and let all the others go. Wait a little longer, let it stay open a little longer than feels comfortable. The second thing is to change your relationship with uncertainty. Most people feel uncertainty as a threat, as something that needs to be resolved immediately. But uncertainty is not empty space. It is full space. It is every possibility existing simultaneously before one gets chosen. When you feel uncertain, instead of panicking, try to recognize that feeling as the most creative moment available to you. Every door is still open. Nothing has collapsed yet. The third thing is to treat your attention like a tool you consciously pick up, rather than a reaction that fires automatically. Before you observe your morning, your day, your situation, pause. Choose deliberately what you are about to collapse into reality, because whatever you look at with full attention, you are making real. Choose carefully. Here is something that very few people are talking about openly, but that I believe you are already sensing. This is not just happening to you. Right now, across the planet, thousands of people are waking up to exactly this understanding simultaneously. Not because they all found the same book or watched the same video, but because consciousness itself seems to be shifting at a collective level. Like a wave that has been building quietly for years and is now finally reaching the shore, there is a concept in science called morphic resonance. The idea that when enough individuals within a species learn something new, that knowledge becomes easier for every other member of the species to access, as if understanding itself leaves an invisible trace in a shared field that others can tap into without being directly taught. Every single person who genuinely sees superposition for what it is and stops collapsing limitation unconsciously makes it fractionally easier for the next person to do the same. You are not alone in this. You are part of a wave. And here is the urgency. Waves like this do not last forever. Moments of collective awakening are rare and they move fast. The window where this shift is most alive and most accessible is open right now. Not next year. Not when you feel more ready. Right now we have covered a lot of ground together in this video, and I want to close with something simple, because the most powerful things usually are. Right now in the comments below, I want you to write one single word. Open. That is it. Nothing else. No explanation. No paragraph. Just that one word written with full intention of what it means. Because when you write it, you are not just leaving a comment, you are making a quantum declaration. You are announcing to your own consciousness and to the field of possibilities surrounding you that you are no longer rushing to collapse, that you are choosing to hold your reality open, that you are done selecting limitation by default every morning before you even get out of bed. One word, written with genuine recognition of what it means. That is all it takes to seal this shift. And if these ideas move something real inside you, if you felt that quiet recognition landing somewhere deeper than just your thoughts, then subscribe. Not because this is a channel that posts videos, but because this is a frequency of understanding that is going to keep going deeper with every single video we make together. You are not subscribing to content, you are aligning with a direction. And the next video is going to take everything we discussed today one level further. Because breaking the collapse loop is just the beginning. What happens after you stop collapsing the wrong version of reality is where things get truly extraordinary. I will see you there.